you tired of letting excuses, fear, and self-doubt keep you from moving forward with passion and purpose? Join me, Lisa Malcom, as I connect you to the unstoppables, the go-getters, the change makers, and the ones who took a chance on living their best life by doing what they love. It's time for a kick in the yes. Welcome to Kick in the Yes podcast. I'm so happy you're here. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you can get the latest episodes as they're released. Now let's get started. Are you currently in the process of trying to figure out your next? Maybe you're a little stuck on the direction you want to take. Are you still trying to figure out what your purpose is? If you answered yes to any of the above, the show's for you. It's all about how to get clarity of purpose. And today I'd like to welcome Keltie Maguire to the show. She's a clarity coach and consultant. And in this episode, Keltie is going to share some tips and advice that will help you think through some of your current challenges and opportunities. And she's going to help us get mentally unstuck and tune into our own insights so that we can make better and more fulfilling choices. And that's what this show will bring you. One thing that stuck out with me is something she said. Clarity is only valuable if we do something about it. You're only halfway there if you figure it out. But you got to take action. And that's why I'm so excited to have Keltie on the show, because that is her motto. Get clarity and take action. Keltie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited that you're here too, because I think it's really important to talk about clarity, purpose, and how to get there. First, tell us, what the heck is a clarity coach, and how do you become one?
That's a really good question. So clarity coaching is actually my own special breed of coaching, and I've developed it in order to help business owners get greater clarity and direction in both their businesses and their lives. And sort of the way I came across this clarity coaching, as I like to call it, is I was deciding with my previous business whether or not I wanted to close it. And I was in this period of great confusion because I really didn't know what direction to take. I felt like I'd invested so much in this company. And then, of course, once I made the decision to close that business, I thought, okay, what the heck am I supposed to do next? And through this transition and this experience, I sort of had this lightning bolt moment where I realized so many of us, both in business and just in life in general, we end up at a point where we really are not clear on what it is we want, how we want to get there, all of the particulars around that. And so it was just this moment of, hey, we need to figure out first what we want, and then we actually need to figure out the how. What are the steps we're going to take to get there? And like I say, in a light bulb moment, it was clarity coaching. That's what I want to do. That's what all of the experience that I've had leading up to this point, I believe, has prepared me for. And yeah, that's how it came to be.
Your aha moment. And now this is your next path of where you're going and what you want to do. And I love the fact that now it's not just get the clarity, but it's taking action.
Yes.
I know that's your motto, get clarity, take action.
I feel like that's really the simplified version of what it is we need to do in any pursuit. First, we need to get clarity, and then we need to take action. It needs to go in that order. And I think we're going to talk about it a little bit later in this conversation, why action taking can be a way of getting clarity, but we still need to have a certain amount of knowing before we can start to action things.
I have a question. Does a clarity coach often get mistaken for a business or life coach? Because I know there's a lot of coaches out there that do different things. Tell us why.
Well, I think people are sometimes confused about where I fit in the context of business and life because, it's this thing like, okay, you help business owners, then why are you asking what I want my life to look like? Because that's really where I like to start with people. But the thing that's important is we can't separate the two, especially when we're talking about figuring out what we want and where we're headed. I actually think a lot of people end up stuck for this reason. They find themselves, growing their business, forging forward, and at the end of the day, they end up unhappy and misaligned because they really have not looked at what kind of life am I creating, and then how does my business reside in the context of my life?
Marie Forleo says, everything is figure outable and clarity comes from engagement and not thoughts. She believes we must be physically engaged to better feel our way into our truth. What do you think?
Well, I definitely agree, as mentioned, from the standpoint that thinking can only get us so far. So in order to ultimately figure out what it is we enjoy and what feels good for us and what our ultimate path is, it really requires us getting out into the real world and experimenting. So, test driving an idea, having a conversation, and taking one step and putting one foot in front of the other. That said, I think it's also really important that we do cultivate an understanding of ourselves and where we're headed in our lives, and to align the actions that we're taking with what it is we want. Although one of the best ways to learn who we are and what we want and what we enjoy, it is to get into the real world and to do stuff. I also think that it's important we take time for reflection and space to really look inside of ourselves and determine what's of value. So it's a balance between the two.
Do you think we need clarity of purpose to succeed?
Well, to be honest, I think without having clarity of purpose, we really don't even have a way of knowing what success is or when we've reached it. So we need to define what it is we're aiming for in order to measure or to evaluate our outcomes. So when we're clear on our purpose, it becomes easier for us to stay the course and to tune out anything that runs contrary to our vision. And I think the last thing to mention is that people who know where they're going and why they're headed there, they'll find success that actually feels good as opposed to just looks good on paper. I think we've all had the experience or heard the story about somebody who created something, whether it's a relationship or they built a business that on paper it appeared successful. It hit all the marks. Maybe they're making a lot of money or, they've had their products in all of these stores. But in reality, it often meant a business owner who was burnt out or deeply dissatisfied or in some other way misaligned with what it was they're doing. So I think when we're clear on our purpose, we're more likely to build a business and a life that's really in alignment.
Passion, purpose, and our why is a common topic on the show. It's like the big scary monster because trying to figure things out can be a bit overwhelming, especially if you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, and you think you can figure everything out on your own. Let's discuss this further so we can help people kind of break through those barriers and learn how.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, as much as I think it's so important, it's a big part of what I do, looking at people's passion, their purpose, their why. That also can be really heavy for a lot of people because it has this connotation of we have to have it all figured out. We need to know with entire certainty what it is we're doing. And the thing is, I think that our purpose can really actually be explored in many different ways and that it could potentially change over the course of our lives as well.
How can purpose be explored in different ways? Just when you think you figured it all out, no, it's not forever and things are going to change. And remember, as long as we're learning and growing, so is our purpose.
Definitely. I mean, I believe that our purpose or why, it's ever evolving and changing. And the reason for that is I think as long as we as humans are growing and evolving, it stands to reason that what's important to us might change as well. Maybe our values have taken a different priority because of our stage of life, or perhaps we experience a major event, positive or negative, and that can be a change in terms of what drives us.
I know when I have lack of clarity, I get frustrated. I start to question just about everything. It like sets off a trigger that gets me in a different mindset. Is there a way that we can break through that barrier and somehow get back on track and focused?
Well, I think the first thing we need to realize is really that clarity is a process, and it's totally normal for us to question ourselves and our path in life. I think sometimes we have this idea that just because we've determined what it is we want to do, that we're going to be fixed on that and we'll never waver from that. And so I think sometimes it's just as simple as giving ourselves a reminder of, what? This too shall pass. It's okay to feel confused and overwhelmed. And that said, when I feel off track, I think one of the key things that we can really help us get back on track is to ask some of the essential questions. What am I working towards? What's this all for? What's important here? I think if we can really try and distill things down and get to what's most essential and important to us, it can help us refocus in on what really matters.
So how can people recognize they are misaligned in their current path?
There's different ways that people become misaligned. And I would say, even more importantly, there's kind of like symptoms that we see that we are perhaps feeling misaligned. So to give a couple of examples, if you find that you're really making decisions in your business or your life on the basis of not letting other people down or worrying about what other people think of your choices, that can sometimes be a sign that you're not really in alignment with what it is that you're doing. For the sake of trying to get a bit clearer on what it is that we want, to ask ourselves, what would I choose in this situation, or what path would I follow if I was to just follow my own heart, if I really looked at what I want and not anybody else.
Okay, we've talked about clarity, purpose, and misalignment. What about those days where we're stuck? That stickiness we get where nothing seems to connect. You're all over the place. Do you have any tips for getting unstuck?
So I think one thing is to go back and look at what worked in the past. When were you last feeling connected to your work? What had brought you success in the past? What parts energized you? What brought you excitement? And to see how you can infuse that back into your business again, back into your life. Because oftentimes, as we grow and evolve and as time goes by, we stop doing the things that really energize us and bring us excitement. So, to really look and say, okay, what's worked historically? Can I go back and do more of that? And then I think the other thing is get out into the world, connect with new people, have a unique experience. Because often when we're stuck, we really get bogged down in our own thoughts. We start ruminating, we're going around in circles, and that is not going to get you unstuck. So, whether it's going out and having a walk in nature, or whether it's sitting down with a friend, or whether it's going to an event and meeting new people, that can really help infuse new inspiration and help dislodge you when you are in this stuck place. And then I think the last thing is really just to look at, what inspires me, and to do more of that, even if it doesn't have anything to do with your work. If you think, well, I'm really inspired when I go volunteer my time and read to children, or I'm inspired when I take a trip, book a couple days away if you can, do something new, because we need new inputs and perspective often in order to change things.
Sometimes it's good to just walk away from it all,
Totally.
and remove yourself from the situation. So thank you for those tips. It's good advice. In our recent conversations, you and I were talking, and you brought up some important points of interest I want to bring to this table for discussion. And I'm going to highlight them. The first is get to the core of it and define what life you want to build. Know what's non-negotiable. Don't follow anybody else's script. And once you're clear on purpose and goals, you must take action. So can you briefly talk about each one?
When I said get to the core of it and define what life you want to build, I mean to quite literally ask yourself, what do I want my life to look like? What do I value? Who do I want to surround myself with? What are the things that fill me up and energize me? When I look to the future, what does my ideal life look like? Because when we can get clear on where it is we're headed and what it is we want, it becomes a lot easier for us to make choices and create a business and a life that aligns with that vision.
What about know what's non-negotiable?
Well, I'm all about keeping an open mindset in terms of how your life and business take shape. I also think it's important that we establish sort of a bottom line that can help ensure that our actions are in line with what actually matters most to us. So by defining the aspects of our business or life that are non-negotiable, again, we make it easier to create something that's in true alignment. And I'll just share a personal example so you can sort of see what I mean about a non-negotiable. For myself, and specifically in starting this new business, I said, it is non-negotiable for me that I be able to work from anywhere. So that really helps me in terms of making decisions that are going to align with that. And also it's a commitment that prevents me from doing anything that would require me to be fixed in one place or one city for, prolonged period of time. It makes it easy to kind of have a hard no to say, does this meet one of my non-negotiables or does it not?
I like that. And I think that's an important piece of the puzzle that we tend to forget. What is non-negotiable in what you want? Because it is all about you in the end and where you're going. Make sure to put down your non-negotiables as you start figuring out where you want to go in life. Next one is don't follow anybody else's script.
So I spoke to this a little bit earlier in our conversation, but what I mean is that we really need to get clear on what it is that we want because it's so easy for us to let external pressures like our friends, our family, or even society broadly speaking to determine what's best for us. And it can be really, really hard, I think, specifically for us women to separate ourselves from this outside noise and to get clear on what our own desires are. But I think it's so, so critical that we do so.
I know from my own experience, I'm reaching out to my friends or coworkers and I want to get some advice. But what happens is then it stirs the pot and I get more confused. I'm going to put in big bold letters, don't follow anybody else's script. And remember, it's about you. I know the importance of the next one, but I'm going to let you explain it.
Okay, so the next one is once you are clear on your purpose and your goals, you must take action. Clarity is really only so valuable as long as we do something about it. So once we figure out what we want, once we have this, aha moment or however this clarity comes about, it's really about actioning the how part of the equation. So taking action is actually where we figure out the particulars of how it all comes together, and taking action is where we make it happen.
So many questions we need to ask ourselves. Remember, friends, it's okay to dig in deep and get to the core of who you are so you can move on and build the life you want to live. But remember, you have to not only ask the difficult and uncomfortable questions, but you have to answer and you have to take action. I think we come to a point where I'm like, yay, I got clarity. Now what? So this whole conversation is helping us reach the clarity point, but also remember you've got to take that next step. Keltie, what tips can you offer our listeners for getting clear on purpose?
Okay, I've got a few different ones for you. So first of all, ask yourself, when do I feel most energized? What brings me to life? When do I feel excited? What are those ideas or those subjects that I get so excited about that, I have trouble sleeping, or I feel like I could just learn about this or discuss this indefinitely? Another suggestion for getting clear on your purpose is really looking at what comes naturally to you and also what comes easily to you, because I really believe that we tend to overlook those things that come most naturally to us because we just kind of dismiss it as, well, everybody knows how to do this, or this is no big deal, because maybe it's a skill we've cultivated over such a long period of time, or it's something just innate to us. So by looking at the things that comes naturally to you, you can work on how you can leverage that in the context of a business or your life, broadly speaking, and that can also help you drive towards your purpose. Another question you can ask is, what do people thank me for? Or what makes me unique? I've actually asked people, like, what would you learn from me? What could I teach you? What makes me stand apart from other people? So to really look at, are people thanking you because you're always connecting them? You're putting them in touch with that great restaurant when they travel, or you're able to make that business introduction. Look at those things, because those things that stand out for people and that they thank you for and that really differentiate you can, again, be something that you can leverage and that probably connect to your purpose. Another one of my favorite things, and I actually would say this is probably a good substitute for this idea of passion that we spoke about, is really looking at your curiosity. So forget about, what's that thing that I just have this huge burning, dying passion for. What are you curious about? So what sort of piques your interest? Is there a subject you're interested in? Are there certain people that when you're around, you just want to know more about them? Is there a certain profession that you've always been kind of intrigued by? And then ask yourself, how can I explore these curiosities? Can I have a conversation with someone? Can I take a course? Can I meet someone for coffee? And then the last thing, and this ties back to what we were talking about in terms of taking action, it's really just to do something. So honestly, just get out there and take a step. Try an idea on for size, see how you like it, test drive your idea. Because again, you just sitting there and thinking, what is my purpose? It's not, in most cases, going to help you uncover anything.
I like these tips that you've put together. It's like the the pieces of the puzzle that you need for the final project. And those are the ingredients that you need, guys. Now let's talk about inspiration, because I know that there's so many people that inspire me online, offline. Mm-hmm. Who inspires you, and who do you follow online?
In terms of who I follow, it's really anyone who I see relentlessly pursuing their dreams. People who are unapologetically themselves, people who seem to have an open heart and have a resilient attitude, even if they have faced adversity, or perhaps especially if they faced adversity. And in terms of the particulars of who I like to follow, I mean, fellow entrepreneurs, writers, thought leaders, creatives, really anybody who has a message or whose work inspires me or educates me or uplifts me or entertains me. But at the end of the day, I need to feel good while I'm consuming their content and while I'm following those people.
I like that. It's people that uplift others or inspire others or are doing great things are an inspiration. Just keep doing your best and moving forward and uplifting others. Okay, moving on. Favorite go-to quote?
Quotes are funny because I often have trouble remembering them, but one that has stuck with me through, I want to say, the entirety of my life, certainly my adult life, is one from Maya Angelou. And it is, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I think for me, that's really kind of the guiding principle by which I live. And, whether I'm a jewelry designer, which I used to be, or a clarity coach now, and sure, of course, helping people uncover clarity and their purpose is important to me. But at the end of the day, I just want people to leave their interaction with me, even if it's me as a patron in a coffee shop, I want them to feel better than they did before we had a connection.
Love it. Do you have any words of wisdom and advice that you would like to share?
Oh gosh, I might be chalk out of wisdom today, but I do have something that I would like to say. And that is, whatever it is that you have been thinking about, dreaming about, scheming about, wondering about, just go out and do it. I just feel like I want to light that fire under people, because whatever it is, if it's a big move you want to make, if it's a business you want to start, if it's a relationship that you want to pursue, no matter how it works out, you will never regret having just gone out and gone for it.
I'm really excited about this new project that Keltie has going on. It's 100 Days of Clarity. So tell us all about this project and how we can be part of it.
So the 100 Days of Clarity is this idea that just planted itself in my brain literally in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And I had this thought. I thought, what would it look like if I were to do 100 complimentary 20-minute coaching sessions, clarity coaching sessions, with 100 different people over 100 days? And I thought, okay, that's quite an undertaking. And 100 days is a fair bit of time. But of course, once I had this idea, I just could not let go of it. And I thought, you know what, this is going to be so interesting because it's really going to give me such a broad cross section of the types of clarity challenges that people have. It's going to put me in touch with so many different people. It's going to be, I think, just a really interesting experience for everybody who takes part in it. Because as I mentioned, clarity is a process. But I also think by asking some, very directed, powerful questions, we can start to shift the way that we think and we see things. So 100 Days of Clarity just started this past week, and it's going to be running until about the middle of February. I'd love for anybody who's interested in booking one to connect with me.
I will definitely have all of this information on the website and in the show notes, but tell people how to find you online.
So I kept things really simple. All you have to do is search Keltie Maguire, and you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. I also have a website, which is keltiemaguire.com. But I would actually love to hear from people. So just drop me a DM. We can get you booked in for one of these 100 clarity sessions, and we can see how we can set you on your own clarity journey so you can uncover greater direction in your own business and life.
One more thing I want to say about these 100 Days of Clarity sessions with Keltie. I love the fact that she right away said to me, it's not 10 minutes I'm selling you or telling you about me. It's 20 minutes focused on you. And I encourage everyone who may be stuck or has a question or needs some help getting clarity on an issue, take advantage of this 20-minute complimentary Clarity Coach Session with Keltie.
Kicking the yes.
Thanks so much for listening. If you have an inspiring kick in the yes story, I want to hear from you. Send me an email at hello@kickintheyes.com and maybe I'll feature your story on the podcast. Till then, always remember, knock out the no and tune into success.